In spite of the coherence of its result, it is generally no more than a multiform instrumentation. Moreover, it cannot be localized in a particular type of institution or state apparatus, for they have recourse to it. They use, select, or impose certain of its methods, but in its mechanisms and its effects it is situated at a quite different level. What the apparatuses and institutions operate is, in a sense, a microphysics of power, whose field of validity is situated, in a sense, between these great functionings and the bodies themselves, with their materiality and their force. Now, the study of this microphysics presupposes that the power exercised on the body is conceived not as a property, but as a strategy, that its effects of domination are attributed not to appropriation, but to dispositions, maneuvers, tactics, techniques, functionings, that one should decipher in it a network of relations, constantly in tension, in activity, rather than a privilege that one might possess, that one should take as its model, a perpetual battle, rather than a contract regulating a transaction or the conquest of a territory. In short, this power is exercised rather than possessed. It is not the privilege acquired or preserved of the dominant class, but the overall effect of its strategic positions, an effect that is manifested and sometimes extended by the position of those who are dominated. Furthermore, this power is not exercised simply as an obligation or a prohibition on those who do not have it. It invests them, is transmitted by them and through them, and it exerts pressure upon them, just as they themselves, in their struggle against it, resist the grip it has on them. This means that these relations go right down into the depths of society, that they are not localized in the relations between the state and its citizens, or on the frontier between classes, and that they do not merely reproduce, at the level of individuals, bodies, gestures, and behavior, the general form of the law or government, that although there is continuity, they are indeed articulated on this form through a whole series of complex mechanisms. There is neither analogy nor homology, but a specificity of mechanism and modality. Lastly, they are not univocal. They define innumerable points of the confrontation, focuses of instability, each of which has its own risks of conflict, of struggles, and of an at least temporary inversion of the power relations. The overthrow of these micropowers does not then obey the law of all or nothing. It is not acquired once and for all by a new control of the apparatuses, nor by a new functioning or a destruction of the institutions. On the other hand, none of its localized episodes may be inscribed in history except by the effects that it induces on the entire network in which it is caught up. Perhaps 2. We should abandon a whole tradition that allows us to imagine that knowledge can exist only where the power relations are suspended, and that knowledge can develop only outside its injunctions, its demands, and its interests. Perhaps we should abandon the belief that power makes mad, and that by the same token, the renunciation of power is one of the conditions of knowledge. We should admit rather that power produces knowledge, and not simply by encouraging it because it serves power or by applying it because it is useful, that power and knowledge directly imply one another, that there is no power relations without the correlative constitution of a field of knowledge, nor any knowledge that does not presuppose and constitute at the same time power relations. These power-knowledge relations are to be analyzed, therefore, not on the basis of a subject of knowledge who is or is not free in relation to the power system, but on the contrary, the subject who knows, the objects to be known, and the modalities of knowledge must be regarded as so many effects of these fundamental implications of power knowledge and their historical transformations.